a trip, not to Washington, D.C., but to Tennessee, and it was taken by one of the politicians in Washington, D.C. How about Vice President Kamala Harris? She went to Tennessee, prompted not immediately by the murder of 6 individuals at the Covenant Christian Church in Nashville, Tennessee, but
they still ain't met with those families.
The fallout in the wake of that horrific murder, and that is that there was protests, riots that took over the Tennessee State House that ended in the expulsion of 3 Tennessee lawmakers that participated in that disruption of democracy. And Kamala Harris took up their message, which was gun control, and talked about the, quote, Tennessee 3.
So I want to start by recognizing the Tennessee 3. They chose to show courage in the face of an extreme
They broke
tragedy,
into a federal building,
which is that 11 days ago,
organized by lawmakers.
6 people, 3 educators, and 3 babies, 9 years old,
Christians.
were murdered.
Can you make your mouth say the
Due
word
to gun
Christian?
violence. Part of the underlying point is let's not fall for the false choice, which suggests you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want reasonable gun safety laws. We can and should do both.
Let's not fall, by the way, for the wrong discussion. These were not just individuals who were gunned down. These were Christians who were gunned down. And make no mistake, if this had been a mosque, if this had been a Jewish temple, if this had been an LGBTQ center, we would be talking about who those people were. And there's no discussion of that. In fact, whenever we've had big events, tragic events, you see social media profiles change for the Ukraine flag to, blackout for Black Lives Matter. There have been no crosses this weekend in particular in solidarity with Christians who were gunned down in Nashville. Certainly our vice president didn't go to Nashville to show solidarity with these Christians who were senselessly murdered because she didn't meet with them. There was an invitation to these 3 representatives who were...
She went all the way to Tennessee and didn't meet with those families.
In Tennessee State House, there was an invitation to the White House from Joe Biden for that.
Representation.
Nothing that we've heard of regarding visits to the family and the victims. So I think, and again, also corporations. Where were the corporations defending those victims as well? They're really quick to jump in when there is a narrative that they like.
You know, there are multiple stories here. The original story is the one we should talk about most, which is honoring the lives, the 6 lives lost that should not have been lost, that were senselessly and needlessly lost, not to gun violence, but to evil within our community. That's what we have to look at. How do we eradicate this evil? How do we identify it, find it, and weed it out? How do we hold people accountable that perpetuate it or cause it through childhood trauma or whatever it may be? However, I do agree to an extent with some of these folks criticizing the Tennessee State Legislature, but more so because of how Kamala and Joe are handling it. Listen, what happened by expelling them from their legislature, that's all personal. That's all, listen, we heard the testimony. You insulted me, you said bad things to me in the elevator, you called me the brown face of white supremacy. That is the internal personal politics of the Tennessee State Legislature blowing up on the national stage because they can't be mature enough to handle something so tragic, and they need to straighten up. If the Tennessee State Legislature wants to take action, put out legislation, whether it's binding or not, to disclose the manifesto of the crazy, evil person who killed those 6 people. Take state action to show that as a state, you want the truth out, you want the story out, you want Tennesseans to be able to know what it is that we should be looking for before someone does something like this. And I pray that's their next move. I hate that this happened, that they were expelled because they made civil rights era egos out of these 3 people. They truly believe, these 3 people, especially the 2 that were expelled, that now they are on.
What about the civil rights of the 6 people that were killed?
Who fought the true fight for social justice. What this is bringing that into the Tennessee State Legislature for personal gain, in my opinion. They're trying to make heroes out of themselves, and the Republicans in the Tennessee Legislature let them do it, in my opinion, needlessly.
Well, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said the following. She said, Republicans may think they won today in Tennessee, but their fascism is only further radicalizing and awakening the earthquake of young people, both in the South and across
really
the
need
nation.
her to
If
look
you
those
thought
words
youth
up before
organizing
she
was
uses
strong, just wait what's coming. Gen Z, don't play.
Or use good grammar.
Just the fascism, okay? I disagree with what you said just in part, Joey. The thing is, democracy is a word that's now being used to pretend that everything we do is simply by popular
Full
vote.
democracy is mob rule. We are a republic.
Nationally, and you know this, we all know this, or I think most of us know this, we're a constitutional republic.
Yes.
And then at the state level, you go through the democratic process through a process that has decorum and rules and constitutional procedure. I don't know if it was personal or not, so I'm not disagreeing with you on that, but I do know that those three legislators disrupted what is supposed to be, I thought, sacred and protected democratic process. And so the point I'm getting at is it's not undemocratic to go, you broke the rules, now we're taking a popular vote on whether or not you should be a part of this process. Now they can get reelected, but this is part of democracy, participating in the rules of democracy. And for AOC to say, it's fascism, look, if you want to keep taking everything to a 10, you're going to get a 10. And, I like this tweet this guy named Wes Yang said, and this is about trans issues. He said, if you keep telling people that if they don't get their way, if they don't get to have child surgeries, if they don't get to compete in boys-girl sports, that they're being subjected to genocide, if you keep telling them that, then they're going to respond as though you would if you were confronted with genocide. If you keep telling people, AOC, that you're confronted with fascism, you're going to ratchet this fire up to an absolute 11.
Here's where AOC is right. If you notice those pictures, they had their fists up. That's a communist symbol, by the way. That is the sign of communism. And she's right. Get ready. This Gen Z is far more radicalized from kindergarten on. Before we used to have radicalization happening in the college. This is a new generation. We are all in trouble. These are the people who are going to go into our law schools, they're going into Congress. These are young legislators in here. They do think that they are righteous. They don't think they have to play by the rules that we talked about in this democratic process, in this constitutional republic, because they are so convinced that they are right. And they have been so radicalized. I mean, they basically
So they don't
gone
have to abide
communist
by the
camp
rules
for,
that Merrick Garland set up.
over a dozen years, and then they come
BS.
out, and we wonder why they're acting like communists.
Kiss
Well,
that
they
job
just went
goodbye
to
for right
communist
now.
camp.
Well, the end result is if you turn on any other network, they're saying that a bunch of white men in Tennessee expelled 2 young black men from representing their communities. And if you're a leader, if you're Speaker of the House, and you can't see that coming, you're not going to get much done for your state. I'm sorry, that's the optics, but the optics rule the day in a world where we get all of our information from social media.
Let's not play by the rules, though. But I see what you're saying, Joey. It's a good point. It's a good point.
I mean, I think you both, I know we're going to move on. You both make good points. I mean, you're describing reality, and you're saying, we can't allow that to be reality. You're right. It's going to play. That's how the optics will be twisted. And you're right. Let them.
Yeah.
All right, now to a major break in the investigation.